Oftentimes, when people think of a sport, they think about football, basketball, and maybe even soccer. A sport that does not cross a lot of people's mind is the game of water polo. Depending on where you live, people may not even know that water polo is a sport. You may be wondering yourself, what is water polo? Or what does it even take to actually play the sport of water polo? Or maybe even why would somebody want to play water polo? Well, today I'm going to tell you first what makes up the sport of water polo. Second, I'm going to tell you how and why the sport was created. Third, and finally, why someone would want to even play the sport of water polo. Water polo has a variety of rules. The basic rules consist of 6 field players and 1 goalie starting the game. Usually each team consists of 15 players so that they have a bench to substitute new players in throughout the game if necessary. Field players are only allowed to pass, catch, and shoot the ball with one hand while treading water. However, it is acceptable for goalies to use hands together if able to. If a player holds the ball under the water, it's an automatic turnover. Turnover is when the ball goes to the other team. This often happens multiple times throughout the game. Usually, players are not allowed to touch the bottom. If a player is in the shallow enough water, they're expected to adjust their treading and avoid the bottom as much as possible. Commonly, games consist of 4 quarters just like a football game. However, total game time typically only lasts 45 minutes to an hour. Each possession of the ball starts 30-second shot clock, just like they do in basketball, where the team is in possession for only 30 seconds and has to attempt at scoring. Something that happens quite often in a typical game are minor fouls. Minor fouls aren't always a bad thing. Some teams use minor fouls as a strategy because it forces the other team to pass before they're allowed to shoot towards the goal. How a player knows that a foul has occurred is with the whistles from the referees outside of the water. Usually, referees are pacing back and forth on land so they have a better view of the playing field to make proper calls. 1 whistle usually means a minor foul, 2 whistles indicates an offensive foul causing a turnover for the other team, and 3 whistles means a major foul. A major foul leads to the defensive player being ejected for 20 seconds. This is like in a hockey game where players are sent to the penalty box. However, in water polo, players are often sent to the corner, leaving the other team to be up a player offensively. 3 major fouls or ejections on individual players means that the player may not return for the rest of the game, causing the coach to put in a new player. Other rules that are applied within the game often has to do with the playing field itself. The playing field can be made up of a variety of bodies of water. You can play in a pool, a lake, a river, or even off the side of a boat as long as the course is long enough. A water polo course has to be at least 25 yards long, 20 yards wide, and ideally it should be 7 feet deep so that the players can tread water easily. To prevent players from having too much of an advantage, there are colored lines on the side of the course that indicate how close they are to the goal. Players are not allowed to be 2 meters away from the goal unless they have the ball or if the ball is within the 2-meter line. This line is usually red. The other line on the course is a 5-meter line that is often yellow. This shows that the player is outside the 5-meter line. They're allowed to shoot the ball directly at the cage instantly. Just like the courses, there are a variety of types of people that play water polo. Water polo consists of both male and female players. Usually the genders are split so they play against their own gender, but there are opportunities to play co-ed. Depending on what level of water polo is being played can determine if the game is co-ed. Younger kids are often allowed to play co-ed teams. The main reason why they split up once they get older is so there's not an advantage one way or another for the team. Just like many other sports, water polo can be played at all ages and levels. There are club teams for younger kids, and then some high schools and colleges have water polo teams for their school, and then there's even opportunities for players to continue to a national level. Water polo may seem like a random sport that was created. It kind of was. Water polo was created by William Wilson. Wilson was a 19th century British swimming instructor and coach that contributed to many scientific techniques behind competitive swimming. It is said in an Epic Sports article that Wilson came up with the aquatic football, leading it to become a popular pastime in Scotland and Britain, and was one of the first team sports introduced in an international modern Olympics. The first game is known to have taken place along the banks of River Dee in Aberdeen, Scotland. However, it wasn't officially recognized until 1885 by the Swimming Association of Great Britain as a true sport. This led to the formalization of the rules that Wilson created. However, water polo was not introduced to America until 1888 by an English swimming instructor named John Robinson. Though the sport is made up of multiple players, to actually play the sport, the team has to become one. By being such a team-oriented sport, players have to be able to rely on one another to win the game. Oftentimes, one of the biggest factors of why someone wants to join water polo is for the team camaraderie. Being a part of a team not only brings a special connection with each of the players, but those around it. Water polo has a large fan base that brings a lot of team spirit from the fans on the outside of the pool. We as a society partake in a variety of sports. Some people love to play sports on land like football, baseball, or even rugby, while others like to take the contact of land into the water with water polo. I just told you a little bit of history of water polo, how and why the sport was created, and lastly, why would somebody want to play the sport? Now that you have more background information on the sport of water polo, the next time you hear water polo, you can explain the sport and have a better connection to the conversation. Or maybe this even sparked interest in trying the sport out itself. You never know.